we're kind of talking off camera that there's been so many stories of people that have like been 20 years into their career or been like, kind of like looking backwards on their story as they talk about it. But I'm so stoked that we get to talk about it like when you're in it. And it'll be really cool too. Cause like, yeah, it'll also be fun. Cause like 5 years from now, we might jump on another one and be like, okay, what's changed?
Yeah.
But
what was true? Probably
exactly.
none of it. But.
For real. But I think that that's going to be really cool because there's a handful of people that listen to the show that like are still trying to find what their thing is or like just found it. And as I'm sure you've known and seen a million times in your career, that's like one of the hardest places to be because everything is kind of an unknown and you can only take the steps that are like right in front of you. And I think that it's one of the first times that you really get confronted with how lonely the game can be. So with that being said, what are you excited about right now with the Paddy Shack and like paint the picture for me of like how we got here?
Yeah. So how we got here, I mean, I'd say that, we just recently announced it to the community that it's coming, and we were so excited to finally be at that stage in this process to be able to tell people about it. But many people don't see, the years of work that have led up to that moment to get to tell people that the Paddy Shack is coming to Billings.
Yeah.
And hopefully Northwest, the Northwest part of the country is the big vision for the business. But yeah, I mean, it started about 3 years ago, and Grant and I, really like we had gone to this place close to our home in Austin, which is where we just moved from. I grew up here in Billings, but, we had, young kids, and, we were inspired by this place that just really was amazing at bringing the community together. And at that time we didn't realize like, that's something we'd like to do. It came about at a later date, but, that came about because we, had some really hard conversations at like this inflection point in our careers where we felt like I personally at my job at the time felt this kind of level of complacency where I was spending time away from my girls, and I didn't feel like, this purpose and fulfillment that I had felt before, but I wanted more. I wanted to do something else.
What was the difference between like that purpose and fulfillment that you did feel versus like where you ended up when you kind of hit that inflection point?
Great question. And that was one big thing that like actually through many conversations with Grant, just understanding like what actually does bring you joy. And even with my colleagues too. And a lot of self-reflection too, right? A lot of moments with myself. What is it that brings me joy and purpose? And for me, it's building things. So my background has been in early stage startups, and I love to take a nascent idea and bring it to life, like figure it out. Like it's an idea on paper. That's all that I have. And then, coordinating all of the pieces that are required, learning about the thing, like filling in the knowledge gaps, to figure out what does it take to bring this specific idea to life.
Right.
I'm not as much the ideas person. Like I'm the person that will make it happen once the idea happens. And you'll see with the Paddy Shack, like a lot of that, the vision is very much Grant. The execution is me. And so we're a really good yin and yang in that way.
Yep.
But I think, to answer your question, I had reached the C-suite at a tech company that reached $1 billion valuation. And it was like, okay, I've gotten to this level that I have been working for my entire career towards. Yeah. I got there, and while it was cush and like made great money, and I was managing a 150 person team, and like, I was, running board meetings and doing all the things, I wasn't leaving the workday feeling fulfillment. I was just like burnt out. And I think it was just because we had built, and it was something to be so proud of, but then it kind of got easy, just going through the motions and turning the small dials because we had gotten to this success level from a revenue perspective that it wasn't like big changes. Right.
Yeah.
Another big thing was that, the job, while it was amazing, I couldn't see the direct impact on people. Like it's an online tech company. And so you can make a lot of money in tech, right? But I wasn't seeing I couldn't see the human element. I'm such a people, connector. Yeah. That was another through self-reflection. Okay. How can I do, what work can I do where I can actually see like the physical impact on the people whose lives I'm impacting?
I feel like one of the hardest things when you're like feeling that burnout and that like misalignment almost is sometimes like to identify where it's coming from. It's like, is it that just that I'm working as much as I am? Am I bored? Am I like, what is the thing here? And so was it obvious to you at the time, like which parts felt misaligned to you and like that you weren't interacting with people, that you weren't seeing your impact? Or did you have to do like quite a bit of digging to be like, why, if I've accomplished all these things I set out to accomplish, like why the heck does this not feel right?
Yeah. It's a great question. I think it was a bit of boredom, where I felt like I was going through the motions and I wasn't uncomfortable. And I've found that while being uncomfortable sucks,
Yeah.
but that is where growth happens. Right. And I just felt like I wasn't being challenged. I knew my job really well. But I didn't feel this like stretch, right? Where what's the next thing that I can do, or what's the next big impact that I can have? So it wasn't like at the fault of really anybody. It's a personal trait of mine, I guess, where now sometimes I go too far, and I've felt that recently, where it's like, okay, you've sought too much discomfort,
very uncomfortable.
Yeah, you're changing everything in your life. Like maybe slow down a minute, but I do think that it came from just needing to feel a little uncomfortable, a little challenged to really feel like I'm living, like I'm creating something, creating a life that I'm proud of versus,
Absolutely.
Getting to that point and then just coasting.
For sure. So I think that one of the hard parts about getting to that like inflection point, especially when you've got tangible success to look at, is I think it's really hard to say like, to ask the question, okay, but now what? Like what's next? And so how did you start to paint what that vision looks like for you and what comes after that? Because I do think that there's kind of the golden handcuffs that people see sometimes where they're like, okay, I know I'm uncomfortable, but also I've got good job, stock options, all the things. So maybe I'm just supposed to be uncomfy and this is the end of the road. Like, how did you start to like forge a new path once you got to that point?
I don't know that I would have had I not had children. I think like being a parent like really gives you this finite perspective on life where like, we have a limited time on this earth and we have children whose lives, like it's our job to create a path for them that they can feel proud of, and show them what's possible.
Okay.
And I've got 2 daughters and I'm very proud of raising hard-headed daughters that are going to go far, I'm sure. But I think like that perspective that I got becoming a parent where it just did give me this like, okay, we've got a limited time, just feeling like, now is the time to seek something bigger, right? Where you have 18 years with your kids in your house and it's okay that we don't have it all figured out. We don't have it completely mapped out I did quite a bit of work in a spreadsheet to try to make sure that like, okay, there's a financial, like there's financial viability here.
Your type A is showing.
Yes. Yeah. But then really just taking the risk to really seek that purpose and meaning in life and have something that, our whole family, like building a legacy, something that we can really feel proud of and something that my daughters can look up to.
That's so cool. How old were your daughters at the time?
So when we first decided to do this, we had 9 months and like 2.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
So not their traditional, like, hey, this is when you should go, like, leave your cushy C-suite job and go start a business.
Totally. Well, and I think so this is kind of unique nuance for Grant and me. I am continuing to work full-time in tech.
Okay.
But and actually this job that I have now, I've got a lot of personal reward. I run the ventures team for them. So I launch new products inside of a publicly traded company. And so I have this push, but I filled in that gap of like building new products. Right. But in terms of like that last bit, which is just that real like human impact, seeing the impact on people's faces, I'm still working in an online tech company. So the Paddy Shack is really like my, for me, like the cup that it fills for me is that personal, like building community here, local. Billings is such an amazing community. And that it's like we have generations of connection a lot of times, right? Like people raise their families and get married and have more kids. And that's pretty unique coming from Austin, where it was definitely a melting pot.
Very transient.
Yeah. So like being able to have a part in like having more spaces for this really vibrant community to come together and take inspiration from these places that we've lived to, bring it's not novel, the concept that we're building,
Right.
but is novel to Billings. So yeah, just, I think, that third human connection piece is really important.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really curious, like when you start building spreadsheets and start doing all of the things from like going to, I'm going to leave this one tech job, start looking for other opportunities, like, and have the Paddy Shack kind of like start coming to the forefront. What are some of the things that were like filters for your decisions at that point? It sounds like making personal connection is one of them. I'd imagine that like your daughters probably played a huge part in that too. But I think that one of the hardest things to do when you're in one of those situations is like figure out what your decision-making criteria is, because it's a really easy thing to say like, okay, it's not this thing that I'm doing currently, but like, how do I make sure that I don't end up in the same situation again? And that I actually like check off these fulfillment boxes that I'm going for. So like, what were some of the like criteria or like the lenses that you laid on your situation to like end up in a spot where you feel fulfilled?
Yeah. So I would say, and there's not like a scientific description of this, but just in the way that we've built our life. And also I would say, the career that I've had has kind of conditioned me to have this frame of mind, which is to have high optimism and high ambition towards the thing that you're building, right? Or the big goal that you have. You have to be optimistic and ambitious to get there. And then work backwards. So when we came up with this plan, it wasn't like, okay, we're going to do this and then this and then this and then this. Like it wasn't sequential. These are the things that we know that we had to do. There was a lot of gray area.
Yeah.
We accidentally became commercial developers for a hot minute, and that was never a part of the plan.
Okay.
But it was a means to an end, right? To be able to get to our ultimate vision of building this space in town. And so I think, just taking that mindset of not losing sight of the big idea and not selling it short, right? Because those days that are hard and where, doubt creeps in, you can suddenly start to let that like pessimistic voice come in and you dial it back and you don't go as big, and it's less scary and it feels safer.
Yeah.
And it is terrifying. And there's a lot of moments where we've been woken up at night, like, what are we doing? Is this like, why are we doing this to ourselves? It's scary. But we've consistently just gone back to that. Like, we set out to do this. We know we believe in it. We know there's a path to get there, and we just have to just put one foot in front of the other. Even if we don't have that perfect plan laid out, we know we want to get there. And then we just kind of work backwards from there to make it happen.
Gotcha. And what was the thing so you said that the idea is to like find the thing that you're passionate about, find the thing that like really gets you up in the morning, and then work backwards from there. Why was it the Paddy Shack that you guys landed on that was like that thing that had that strong of a pull?
So Grant and I we love to host people.
Okay.
Our friends have, labeled us as, we're going to the Scelzis. We're going there for the Super Bowl. We're going there for a crawfish boil or housewarming party or whatever it may be. We're actually hosting one on Saturday at our new house.
Every friend group needs a friend, friends like you.
Yeah, we really love bringing people together. Like that was the genesis of the Paddy Shack. So it started there, where we felt like, hey, we both get such fulfillment bringing people together and building that human connection, especially in this digital age where people just kind of go live in their, go through the motions of their lives and they're on Instagram or whatever, but they're not actually like building those deep connections.
Yeah.
And so we felt, okay, we have this strength of ours. We did in San Diego and we moved to Austin. Same thing. We started to have kids. We'd bring people together, or we'd go to this place in Austin called Five Soul. And, it's really like meant to be a community gathering space, but it has pickleball, right?
Okay.
It has pickleball courts. it's interesting because as we've told people about the Paddy Shack, many people think that we've started with like pickleball first. You guys must be people with a duper score and like I'm intimidated to go play there.
Yeah.
And we are very much social players. And so, we've tried to tell the community that really the Paddy Shack is community first, pickleball second. But it stemmed from this, okay, what are our strengths? It's bringing people together. How can we create a space that brings people together, especially for young families? Like, selfishly, that's the era of life that we're in. And we found that there's some white space here in Billings and there's just not enough places for young families to gather.
Right.
And for parents to have just as much fun as the kids are having, or vice versa, right? Usually right now, the places that we have where we have really great social options or really great kids options, but not something that kind of blends it together.
Right.
And so that was the goal. We also care about health and wellness, right? And like being active and raising generations that are not in front of screens and that are like using their bodies. And so pickleball is such an accessible sport.
For like everyone
anybody.
from like a 5-year-old to like 70 plus.
Yes,
Yeah.
anyone can play, right?
Yeah.
And so that was really an important priority for us is, okay, how do we have something that gets people out there, being active, building community, and is easy entry point for everybody to kind of move their bodies and build connection.
Yeah. I saw when you were talking earlier about all of the time that it took to like make that announcement and finally say like, hey, this is coming.
Yeah.
I remember I saw that first announcement post on Instagram and I think I DM'd you guys like right as I saw it and I was like, yo,
yes.
we have to talk. This is awesome.
And then you told us that you're not going to be here for much longer.
I know. Yeah. We're swapping. I'm going to Austin and you guys are coming to Billings.
Yeah. I didn't know if that was public knowledge yet.
It is as of 2 episodes ago on this one, but I am keeping a place in Billings though. So I'll be like popping back and forth and all of that. I keep meeting for the
grand opening.
Yeah. I keep meeting all of like the coolest people in Billings in the last like 6 months when I knew that I'm going to like make this move. And I'm just like, what kind of sick trick is happening to me
Track those
now?
signs. You might be back here soon.
I know, that's true. We're definitely open to it. But I think that it's such a cool thing because I also live in a world where like a lot of the contribution that I have to the world doesn't really live in person.
Mm-hmm.
Like outside of us having this conversation right now,
Mm-hmm.
most of the things that happen downstream from this are like my editors go and do their stuff and like, we meet on Zoom or we meet in the office or whatever to talk about that. And then it lives online. But like, I don't get to see the impact that this thing makes on anybody outside of like getting to have great conversations, which is like the thing that I enjoy the most about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that this grows is like posting stuff online and I don't really get to see the reactions to that. And then like people watching the full episode, same thing. So I really enjoy the moments where somebody comes up to me and they're like, hey, I listened to this thing and like this idea that Jessie was talking about, like, it's so cool. Those moments are so cool to me because I never get to see the impact. So I have like this dream of someday being able to do like a physical location thing where I can come in and like have a coffee shop and be like, yo, I got to see them. Like they're on their first date right now. How cool is that? Or this guy's building this business over there. And I can imagine that must be such an exciting thing after working in tech for so long.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And whenever we open the Paddy Shack, we can host a fireside chat or something. You can get that.
Yeah, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, because you really have brought like some great voices in this community onto your podcast that are, very inspiring. Jess Hannison's like, I told her she's the coolest. I was voice memoing her after. I'm like, I literally got goosebumps from some of the things that she said, because for me, like, it felt like, okay, she and I there's so many parallels, right? Mm-hmm. Totally different business, totally different backgrounds. But some of like the challenges and the learnings and the growth those themes are the same. Right. And I think that is like just feeling like, okay, I've got people in my corner who are going through this too. Feels good.
It's such like a relieving feeling, not only to know that there are other people out there that are doing it, but also when it's somebody who's in the same community that you can reach out to them and be like, oh my gosh, you're one of my people too.
Yes.
It's just the coolest of all time.
100%.
Selfishly, that's been one of the coolest things about this podcast. It's like one of the biggest excuses, if you will, to like meet people that I'm so inspired by. Mm-hmm. And podcasting is a really weird thing because there's like this pretense going into a conversation where it's like, we're going to spend 2 hours and talk about like all of the deep stuff. Mm-hmm. And anytime that you would meet a friend any other time outside of that, it'd be like, why the hell?
Is this a therapy session?
You don't get to ask me this. Yeah.
Totally.
What are you doing? But I'm really like to your point of the like, it's really nice to have people who are like in your same kind of shoes and stuff like that. one of the things that I loved about her story was her talking about how there was like never a point where they were just like ready.
Yeah.
Right. Where there's like nobody who comes up and like, okay, your finances, your family, the timing, everything is right. And so how did you and Grant approach that, having a 9-month-old and 2-year-old making a big move from Austin to Billings? Like, you guys kind of had all of the things that are like major life stressors. Yeah. You guys are just checking every box and you're like, let's add starting a business to this as well. So like,
and building a house at one point.
Yeah, sure. And like, and commercial development and the whole thing. So like, how the heck do you navigate that?
Yeah. It's a great question. I don't feel like I have a perfect answer to it, except that, we definitely did not have this moment where we were just like, okay, we've got it all figured out. Let's go. And it's going to be perfect. It's like
no spreadsheet existed that said green light.
But it were like all of these small signs, right? These little like, kind of intangible pulls that happened where we would, learn something new, or we'd talk to somebody and it would hype us up, give us more energy that like, yeah, we are building something really cool. And yes, we don't know the answers to everything, but people believe in the vision.
Okay.
And so like having, people who believe in us, like, and not just, I've had to shift my mindset of like, we brought a lot of people into the fold because it's a massive project. And my initial mindset was like, these people are counting on us. We cannot let them down, which is true. But on those hard days where you're still trying to figure it out, you don't necessarily know, what tomorrow's going to bring. Shifting that mindset to like, no, there are all of these people who believe in us. They believe in this vision. And that, gets you going. It makes you feel like, okay, it's not just that I have to believe in myself, because, one of the validating things with this whole journey has been, there could have been a world where we would go sit down and tell people about this idea and they're like, cool, good luck.
Yeah. Have fun.
But it's not that. It's like, how can I help? Let me connect you to this person. And so just having that community that believe in the vision to help us feel confident in ourselves, even if we don't have all the answers, I think is what has kept us going through all of this. And then really just like I said, having that ambitious and optimistic view of where you're going, building a plan to work backwards, and then just like starting to take bites out of the elephant, where it's okay. We gotta put our house on the market. We're moving. My job was transferable because I'm in tech, but Grant's wasn't. He was working in Austin. So we decided, we took this big leap of faith. Okay, are we going to do it? We're going to move to one income. We know it's going to be a short-term thing, but we know it's what's right for our family, because the alternative was, let's just continue going through the motions, have this cush job, not feeling this extreme sense of fulfillment for either of us.
Yeah.
And then before we know it, we're going to be 60, 70 years old and so mad that we didn't like just push ourselves to take the risk. Yeah. And we've had so many friends and family too who are like, you guys are young. Worst case, like if it doesn't work out, you'll rebuild. And like having people say that, when I'm like I want to have like, I do want to always have a plan and like feel like
you're preaching to the choir.
Safety net. Yeah. Having those people are like, but if the worst happens to you, it's not, it's not the end of the world. You're young. You'll rebuild. You'll figure it out.
How do you like internalize that advice? Because I hear that all the time, and there's been like, sometimes it's very hard for me to like actually accept that and like embody that advice, like because you hear it all the time, right? But for you to go from like actually hearing it and being like, oh yeah, it's kind of cliche, you're young, you can bounce back, to actually being like, no, you're right. How do you get there? Because I don't know if I figured it out yet.
Yeah. I do think like hearing it from enough people who especially like those who are older, who have had similar journeys where they did take a big risk and it paid off. Yeah. But they had those moments, right, where they didn't know if it was going to pay off, or they might go into bankruptcy, like all those things that creep in the back of your head that, okay, this big idea could go south. And what does that mean for us? But we're not going to die from it, like, yes, it's stressful, but again, like just trying to keep it as binary as possible, where you either anybody who builds a great business takes on a lot of risk. Right. And so just being comfortable to be in that space versus like, yeah, of course, by nature, I want to go to safety. Yeah. And I think it's really important to build a plan that like has all of the variables,
For sure.
has as many variables as you can possibly think so that you can be very strategic in what you do. Like, don't just go willy nilly, like, oh, we want to do this thing and we're just going to take risks everywhere and make bad decisions everywhere. And of course we all make bad decisions here and there, but yeah, I think the alternative of complacency and not building something amazing and having all the answers is not fulfilling.
I would agree. Yeah, for sure. And it does, at times I'm envious of people that is a fulfilling thing because they're, I mean, they're out there, right? There's some people that are just wired that way. And I look at them like, man, that looks like it would be very nice, especially like go home on a Friday and not think about work all weekend and
I don't know what
not
that
stare
feels
at
like.
the ceiling before bed and be wondering what's going to happen.
Yes.
What's up, everybody? We're taking a quick pause from the show to ask one small favor. When we were looking at the stats of the show, we noticed that most of the people that listen consistently actually aren't subscribed to the show yet. So the one ask that we have today is if you could take 10 seconds and whatever platform you're listening on right now, head over to our page and hit the subscribe button, and it would be a huge help for us. Growing our subscribers helps us bring on more awesome guests, and it really helps us build a community of people like you that we're trying to foster with this thing. So that's the one ask that we have. Please go hit that subscribe button, and let's get back to the show. One of the things that I'm curious about, and this is a conversation I've had like in a bunch of different formats, but I've heard a really mixed bag on when you should share your vision with somebody. And I'm really curious for you when you said that like you would start to tell people your vision and they jump on and start to connect you and those sorts of things. Being somebody who's been exposed to the early stage world as much as you have, what's your view on when the right time to start talking about the thing is and like who you can start sharing it with?
Yeah. So I would look at it like a widening web of people, right?
Okay.
So who is in like the safest circle that you can use to bounce ideas off of and be, not have, a lot of the answers that maybe the wider, bigger people care about.
Yep.
But so like we leaned into some of our more entrepreneurial friends in Austin who've started businesses or who are in real estate or even the people who started Five Soul, where it was really just like asking questions and what am I not thinking of here and help me fill in the gaps. And then starting to build like that next, layer of connection where, okay, help us, like when we were doing a lot of the, more of the due diligence and the research on the market here, to go into our financial projections of the business. Like we had to bring in some more people who are familiar with this market who would expect us to have a little bit more of a fleshed out business plan. Yeah. But that like core group, like helped us to flesh out the business plan. Right. And then just kind of getting more and more information in before we have people who are putting a lot of money as investors into the Paddy Shack. We wanted to make sure that we had like, the conservative, moderate and aggressive financial projections and like we've talked with the architect and the GC and we have all that. We've done a lot of the work so that when we do sit down with them, we're equipped, right, to be able to have those conversations. But we didn't reach out to them on day one, right? Yeah. Because we needed to get to that layer of like, of granularity, I guess, to be able to build that confidence for somebody who doesn't just care about supporting a friend with a vision, also wants to know a lot more about, what's happening behind the scenes and how it's going to be successful. Yeah.
Without getting like too far into the weeds of maybe like the technical side of things, as far as like their projections and stuff like that goes, what are some of the most important questions as you start asking like that maybe like first and second layer as you're fleshing out an idea? What are some of the most important questions to be asking people to say like, okay, this is an idea that's worth like continuing further down the road on, or this is something that might like die in these first couple stages and move on to the next thing? Yeah. So that shiny object syndrome is
for sure
super real for people who are like wired as entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're kind of in this like middle category where we aren't coming up with an entirely novel concept. Right. And so for us, it was really just, is this going to work in Montana? Like, those were the early, like, are the people up there similar in terms of what they need? What's the climate? How are we going to make sure that we have something that's like all seasons? And what's the, like, how are, like, cause every community behaviorally is different, right? Like what's important to Or what have people in Billings been conditioned to do differently than people in Austin?
For sure.
So I think like for us, it was not necessarily like challenge this idea. It was more, is this idea going to work up there? And if yes, like how do we need to modify the plan to make sure that we're not just kind of lifting and shifting something without accounting for the unique nuance of the community.
Right.
It's obviously not a tech company where it has to be very localized and like optimized for the local market.
Yep.
Right. Which was a new thing for me to learn because a lot of my like products that I've launched have, you do consumer research and a full market analysis and, the total addressable market and like all of these KPIs that you're tracking when you're launching an online product that don't necessarily completely translate to like building a physical space for people.
For sure.
But yeah, to answer your question, I think just really thinking about how does that concept, how can it be lifted and shifted and be successful in different markets?
For sure. Yeah, I think it's so cool because you said like towards the beginning that your and Grant's dynamic with him being able to be the visionary and like paint some of those bigger picture things, and then you clearly having a very like intimate understanding of the granular details of how something actually works. I think that is one of the coolest combinations, and I've like heard it pop up more and more. Jessica is one of the great examples of that too. So how, as you guys have like started to go down this path, you said that like you guys had to go to single income.
Yeah.
Grant's like, full in on this thing. How has that dynamic started to like manifest and grow as you guys have gone down this? Cause I hear all the time, like, don't start a business with your spouse and blah, blah, blah. I think that advice discounts when you've got like a superhero Avengers team that are like perfect fit like that. So
yeah, good yin and yang.
Yeah. So I'm really curious, like how that dynamic has kind of like manifested for you guys.
We're very much still learning the dynamic, right?
For sure.
Because we're both super passionate people and we both really believe in this thing that we're building. But we do have different strengths that we bring to the table. The nice thing is we don't often step on each other's toes. Like we kind of let each other be in the lane that, that plays on each of our strengths, but not all the time. Right. So I think it's forced some really good conversation of like, okay, what is your lane and what's my lane? And let's respect each other's kind of what we're bringing to the table. My type A personality, definitely. I'd say I'm worse at it than he is, in terms of like releasing that like trust to say, okay, you feel strongly about this and it kind of fits in your lane.
Yeah.
A perfect example where we just recently, like, we're going through the plans of the space and we're in like this nuanced discussion on whether we have to sprinkle the building or not based on the square footage. And I'm looking at the numbers, right? Okay, if we don't sprinkle it, here's how much it's going to save us on the costs of the, I'm always looking at the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But he's like, but if we have that, if we're decreasing that square footage, like it's going to change the experience. Like we're building this like social space. Yes, we have pickleball courts and those are like locked in. You can't make those smaller.
Yeah.
So the thing that would suffer by doing that is making the community space smaller. And that's not what we're doing,
Yeah.
And so had I not had him in that meeting, like where he was like, no, I just really don't think that we should do this, for the trade-off, for the financial trade-off, because it's going to be a larger experiential trade-off.
Right.
It's not worth it. And so he did the same thing when we picked the space for the Paddy Shack. Like there was a point in time when we came, I guess it was about a year and a half ago, we came out here and we went and looked at different sites of where we could put the business. The gap and why we became commercial developers is that the area of town where we wanted to have the business, there were no existing either commercial spaces, like existing buildings, or even commercially zoned land.
Gotcha.
So we were going to have to go down like south, like, by Costco area, which is not a knock on that area, but this whole, the vision for us is like third space, right? Community where people can like walk out their doors and 5 minutes later be at the Paddy Shack, like closer to a lot of rooftops. Right. And for him, same thing. I was like, oh, but this warehouse is perfect. It's easy. We can just turn that into the Paddy Shack. He's like, but it's not where we want it to be. Like our vision has been to be in this specific space. And so I feel like he and I while it causes kind of like difficult conversations.
Yeah, it's like, you're right, but I don't want you to be right. Yeah.
But honestly, like, thank goodness. Because
sure.
if you didn't have that person that has the other side of the brain thinking about it, I think we could have made so many wrong turns along the way.
100%. It's kind of cool too to think about, like, this is kind of my first time thinking about it in this way, but it's almost like having a mentor in one of your like blind spots.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and I think that that's something that, you know, everything that I built so far has been only me in, other than when Clay and I did the owner's journal. And that's one of the things that I feel like I have to like outsource quite a bit, is getting inspiration, like ideas from mentors when I like feel like I'm like operating in a blind spot. But to have that person in it with you in your day to day, where like you don't have to fill them in on like, okay, well, this is going on, so this is my decision. You're just like live feed all the time. That's got to be one of the coolest things to be able to like to operate with. That's awesome.
I love that you're even calling that out, because it's something I feel like we don't give it credit for. You know, like we often, we're going through the hard stuff, right? But thank goodness we don't have to give context. We're trying to make a decision. Like everybody just knows, we all know it's all on the table. I do think like starting a business with your spouse like requires quite a bit of discipline to make sure that, you know, starting a business doesn't creep into, it doesn't take precedence over your marriage.
Right.
You don't suddenly just become business partners, and we're like, we didn't marry each other to become business partners.
Yeah.
And you know, you go through, when you take on something large like this, or in our experience, it's really forced us to like have discipline to our relationship just as much as we do to the business, right? And not let that like get the short end of the stick.
Well, even as a foundation, you said that like the reason why a lot of this path was even walked down in the first place was because you guys didn't want to like, you know, blink one day and your daughters have graduated and it's like, oh, we missed it all, or like all of that. So it seems like the foundation of this was spend more time with the family, live a life that feels fulfilling and all of that. So it makes sense that discipline is like extra. Hey, we have to do this. Like, let's protect this. So how do you go about protecting, this is our marriage, this is our business partnership, this is us as parents? Because it's kind of a lot of arenas to manage at the same time.
Yeah. I think just putting it out in the open, like we, this past summer, we basically did all of the life events at once. We moved, we listed our house in Austin. We bought a piece of property. We were going to build a house. We were going to build a business. We had the girls in new schools. I had started a new job. And I remember when we like had plans to do all that, we knew what we were doing. Right. My parents were like, that's a lot. Like are you going to be okay? And we're like, we're fine. Why are you doubting us? You know, that was like,
I love being uncomfortable.
Yes,
what do you mean?
Yeah. No, but I like, then that was where we took it too far.
Yeah.
And I actually have a coach that, she's like an exec, like life coach. And she was like, draw a pyramid, like, and you and Grant have to be at the top. And then it's Charlie and Reagan. And then you're going to pick one big rock that you're going to go after. But you can't build a house and build a business at the same time. Like one of the things that she said was, you can't have all your dreams at once. And one of those, I loved that advice, because as an ambitious person, like it's easy to just, I want to do all these things. And I want to do them all at 100%.
Right.
Really having that, okay, it forced me, okay, are we building a business or are we building a house? Which one matters more?
Okay.
Of course, it was the business. Like you can always build your dream home. We actually ended up buying our dream home. So it all worked out. Like as soon as we made that prioritization, like that pyramid, things started to like be easier to make trade-offs, because we put it on our fridge. Like just remember this, like remember our priorities, because you like, instead of having like, okay, today my priority is this and tomorrow my priority is this, and you can kind of get jumbled on, you know, what matters. I think having that like just consistent reference point of, okay, we're never going to lose sight of the pyramid and what's at the top.
Right.
To figure out how we manage each of our days has been really valuable.
Interesting. Is it, I mean, the first place that my brain goes to is that it seems like it would be really easy for me to just like draw another layer on the pyramid and just like keep adding to the bottom of that thing. So how did you decide in the first place, like, okay, the business instead of the house, or like, how do you commit to that without being like, yeah, but like we could do this little side project over here, you know?
I think like the black and white, like binary decision of, okay, if we did the business and didn't have the house, how would we feel? If we did the house and we didn't do the business, how would we feel? And it was just, it didn't even require much deliberation.
Right.
It was like, the house will come, you know, but if we chose to put all of our energy and capacity and money into building a house, and then we just stuck with, and then it's like, why?
For what?
Like, yeah, for what? Because who cares about material things? And actually, this whole building a business thing requires a lot of cash flow, which means like a lot of sacrifice on the material things that feel good, and that, like, even experiences and stuff where we've had to say, okay, those things, we're sacrificing that because we believe in this thing. And yes, we have to continue living, and we want to have that balance. But right now we don't really have that balance. We've chosen that because we know that it's what we want to be doing in the long term.
Yeah. Dang, that's so interesting. What, as you started like going down that road, what were some of the things that putting that pyramid like actually into action? Do you have any tips or anything that you guys practice in order to like make sure that each of those individual like boxes don't overflow into each other?
Well, you've probably seen it at Black Orchid when we take our kids and they go to the childcare, we get our workout in. We get like time together. We also get a workout in. That's a big one. Like just starting our day our way is the way that we say it. Like we always have a more productive, better day if we get our exercise in the morning. Okay. So like making sure that doesn't fall short, even though then we're not perfect at it. It's not like every day we're making sure that we get our workout in. Things come up, or we're traveling or whatever. But I think like really thinking about what do we need? How do we need to structure our weeks so that we can show up as our best selves and like be the most productive and be the happiest and be the best partner to each other and the best parents for our kids. Another big one is like date nights. You know, Thursdays we have a babysitter come every Thursday and we have date night. Sometimes we're working on the Paddy Shack.
Yeah.
Like
I was going to ask, like, do we have rules for this where it's like, no talking about the Paddy Shack?
It's very hard to not do that. But I think like, you know, yesterday, like it was okay because there are big things that we're working on right now and it doesn't feel like work, but we need that undivided time to work on it. And then shut the computers, and then we're having the rest of the night together as a couple. So just like little things like that, where there's these non-negotiables of things that you're not going to let go sideways because life has taken, you know, too much of the reins. So that you can, you know, keep on the right track and feel good, you know?
Yeah. One of the things that I find really interesting is actually something that Jessica brought up in her episode, and her idea that you can like have both, right? Like you can be, and both really does mean a lot of different things, right? Like her idea was you can be a great mom and you can be a great business person and you can be a great wife. And it seems like you're also in that space, but you're also doing it like at the early stage where like the bullets are still flying and the systems you're not that boring part yet, right? Where you're like, you know,
what's next,
where it's made it. So what's your view on that as far as like the trade-offs that you have to make and like still doing a good job of showing up well in all those arenas when there's like so much that's happening right now?
Yeah. I loved that part of her episode because I was like, yes, it's so accurate. You can love more than one thing, I think is the way that she worded it. And it's so true. Like just because I love my career or love the Paddy Shack doesn't mean that I love my children any less or vice versa. Right.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, in terms of how to be able to do it all, your hat actually is like, I got some of the best advice from one of the women that I worked with in my last job, who's a successful career woman with children. And I asked her that, like, how, you know, any tips, like, cause sometimes you can easily feel like you're falling short.
Right.
I especially feel that way when I have to travel for work and like, I can't be there for my kids on a regular basis or be there to help Grant, you know, with the bedtime routine or whatever it may be. She just, you know, said, be where your feet are. You know, it's your kids are fine. And it's more important for you to be 100% where you are. And when you get home, like turn it back on for them.
Yeah.
And so I've really taken that advice to just like when I'm in that part of my day or that part of my week, whether it's work or with the kids, I'm not like, trying to do both half-ass. I'm
For
going
sure.
full in on that thing that is needed. Like I actually took last week off entirely to take my youngest on a solo trip, which I highly
Let's go.
recommend to any parent.
Awesome.
And it was really intended so that I could, be 100% present with her, not worry about work. I'm not trying to do it all at once and like give that dedicated time, the attention that it deserves so that it can make that real impact in her life and our relationship. Right.
Right.
And then go into the next week where it may be a lot of work that's, demanding my attention, but I knew that I gave that week to her before. And like, that was an important, trade-off, I guess.
100%. One of the things that I found to be true was, actually one of the things that was a big shift for me was I used to look at my capacity and like the energy that I would give to things as kind of like a finite resource, where I was like, okay, I might start every day with 100% and I have to like allocate, if I have 5 things to do, each one of them might get 20%. But what I didn't account for was that as I was doing that, I found that just like you said, I was like kind of half-assing a lot of different things and all of them felt like they were somewhat mediocre at the time. And I think the reason why was because looking at it like a finite game, it becomes that in a way. Because when I gave 50% to my business when I was here, there would be things where like it didn't really pour back into me because I wasn't giving it my all. Same thing with my friendships, my relationships, showing up as a son and brother and all of those things. But what I started to find was that there are actually things where when you pour 100% into something, it pours 100% back. And I think that was a really big shift for me because I didn't realize that like when I would go to hang out with my friends to like take a break or whatever, and I would show up at 20% because I was still thinking about something that was going on with the business and the chores that I had to do and my to-do list and blah, blah, blah. Like I wasn't able to receive any of like the good stuff that comes with being around people that love and support you. And so I would like leave there kind of like half-ass that and then half-ass the next thing. But I'd imagine that doing something like going for a week with your daughter is like, that's got to pour back like crazy when you get back and it's time to get back into work
pays a
again.
lot of dividends for sure.
What are some of the things that you find that like pour back into you as you're kind of like navigating all these different arenas?
Well, I think that when you have those like even the way that you're describing, like you have so much on your plate and you're trying to make sure that it all gets done, and feeling like you're half-assing for me, it's like my mindset.
Okay.
And one of the things that I've just found on the days that I don't exercise versus the days that I do, it's markedly different in terms of what's going on in my brain.
Me too.
So I think like we don't as like a society give that enough of a platform to really, yes, of course, like exercise is important for your physical health. But for me, the mental health and like mental clarity to be able to tackle a huge day is so dependent on whether I exercise, whether I gave myself like that 1 hour to get the endorphin release and like, and, start my day energized versus just waking up and then going into it all.
Yep.
Or just like having that like wall of work that suddenly hits you and you didn't get that time for yourself.
Yeah.
And so like, that's the same for how I show up as a mom for my kids. Like, and it's the same for Grant too. We make sure that each other gets our time to exercise because we both know how much of a difference it makes. Like you can just see, so I feel like my perspective is less on it's more like what are the habits that I need to have each day to have that long-term impact, and to be able to handle, that type of the amount of work that we have on our plate, like all of the balls that we have in the air, you have to have a clear head. Right. And so I think, that one foundational thing has enabled us to be really efficient at all the things that we have going on.
It's so cool when you can find that thing too. I think it takes a little bit of introspection to notice that like, oh, I had a bad day today. What was the variable that was different? And that's one thing that I've done for a long time is like almost looked at myself as like a human science experiment and starting to look like, okay, well, breakfast is the thing for me. Like if I don't eat breakfast, it's the rest of my day is a nightmare. And so if I like, it's literally like on my to-do list every day and I cross it off every day is like eat breakfast.
And type of breakfast too.
That
like
too, yeah.
Protein versus, a banana have
Exactly.
two very different impacts
sure.
on your day.
For sure. But I think that like taking the time to experiment with what are the variables that I have to cross off is really important. Like for a long time, I was also like, hey, I have to have a workout first thing in the morning. And for whatever reason, I was like, I've been a very sleepy boy this winter. And so I've had some very hibernation bear-like tendencies for whatever reason. But I started being like, okay, whatever. I guess I'll like wake up at a decent time, try having like the slow morning idea with, reading and journaling and stuff, and then going into breakfast and then working out in the afternoons. And I don't know if it's something that I'll keep or not, but having that ability to like run a test and be like, okay, let's change a variable here.
How did that change the outcome?
Yeah. So I think that that's something that I would encourage a lot of people to do is like, if most of your days are either great or bad, like take inventory.
Yes.
And then say like, okay, which of these are like maybe okay?
Yeah.
That could be great. Let's change it around a little bit.
100%. Yeah. I think really just like taking the time to self-reflect, that everybody has bad days. There's some things that you can't control, but again, a lot of it has to do with your mindset.
Yeah.
Like if something bad got thrown your way when you were already at your capacity and, like just spaghetti brain.
Yeah.
And I've had those days, like everybody does, especially when you have so much work on your plate where, sometimes I've had days where I feel like I have nothing left to give. I've had like 10 meetings for work and no time to work on the Paddy Shack and got to pick the girls up, get them to their activities, sitting at dinner, and there's no words coming out. There's nothing, nothing happening. I hate those days. And a lot of them usually are because, again, just didn't prioritize an hour for myself in the morning. And that might require discipline to wake up at 6,
right.
Get it done before everybody else wakes up. But again, that's like a non-negotiable, and not saying that I am great at doing it every day,
right.
But I notice a difference for sure.
Yeah. 100%. It sounds like you take a lot of time or like set up a lot of, opportunities for self-reflection. Like you mentioned having a coach earlier and like reaching out to mentors and having a lot of that, like almost like sourcing different inspiration from places. And there's that cliche that like business is the best self-development tool there is, which I say it like that because I hear it all the time, but it is so true. And I'm reminded of it all the time. But how does that like self-reflection and self-development thing kind of play into the journey that you've had so far?
Yeah. I think, my career has definitely conditioned me, equipped me with some tools, right? Okay. That I can thank those that came before me, it's really important that you have people in your corner, like a community of people that you can bounce ideas off of. I think one big thing for me that I'm still learning to be better at is asking for help. Whether that's like, I need advice, I don't know how to do this thing, or complete different, hey, can you pick up, like a girlfriend? I just recently had to ask her, can you pick up my daughter at school? I got pulled into a meeting.
Yeah.
Yes. And she's like, anytime you need that, let me know. And I told her I would do the same. And so just like feeling like you have this community where you can count on them when things might go sideways, is so important. And I think a lot of times we all feel like we have to have it all figured out, and we can't show our vulnerabilities with folks, like, kind of squashing that and really, recognizing that like the best ideas usually come from, or the best ideas, the best businesses usually come from a network of people that helped you get there. No one ever gets to success on their own. And so really leaning into that, I think, is so important.
What allowed you to start chipping away at that and like being able to ask for help? Because I think it takes, for somebody who's not used to doing it, or who like, that's not the natural tendency, I think that can feel like a really big hurdle.
Yeah.
So what allowed you to like start flexing that muscle and developing the ability to start asking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's shifting that mindset to like, I'm always learning. I always need to improve. Instead of these people that like, I'm not going to articulate it perfectly, but even like going to when I first had to speak in front of a large group of people in my job, and I knew that I was going to be nervous, and I couldn't stop my body from doing the thing, feeling
the
nervous.
The butterflies are showing up.
Yeah.
Either way,
yeah. But just doing it, like, just, even though it's scary and terrifying, like for me, I knew that I had knowledge to share and that people wanted to hear what I had to say about this topic. Like reminding myself that that's why I'm here. They've asked me to come. Yes, my body is having this reaction that I can't control. And I might not say things exactly the way that I rehearsed them, but going back to what you said at the start of the podcast, like it might have some mistakes sprinkled in there. Nobody is going to see it except for you.
Right.
And then being on the other end of it, like, I feel like I've just had this reinforcement of taking those bets, and asking, doing things that are outside of my comfort zone, or coming to people with uncertainty, right? Like, I'm not exactly sure how to do this, or I need help here. And then seeing the reward on the other end of it by having done that thing. And it just reinforces, okay, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to not know everything. People expect that of humans, and you get on the other end of it and you learned a new thing, and it helps you be better. Or you can even, pay it forward. Somebody's going to come, like I've gotten the opportunity to be a mentor to people, which only came from how much I benefited by being the mentee, you know?
100%. I think that asking the first question is the hardest one, because you don't have the feedback loop yet of it's okay if I ask somebody a question when I need help.
Yes.
And then it goes really well. And then I get to help somebody like down the road, and
it snowballs.
Yeah. And like, I feel how much that person who helped me must have like gotten out of this. And so I think that that's a really interesting one, is like starting to build that momentum and being okay with just doing it.
And I feel like I've found there's a specific mentor that we've had on this commercial development project, because it's been like, the learning curve is huge to learn how to do all of that work, all the city planning, all of the improvements to the land and the changes to the zoning and everything, right?
You guys did all of it.
We did all of that. Yeah. But not on our own. Like we had great advisors, one of which is a person who is highly influential in the community, doesn't need any recognition, like actually refuses to let me mention him. But he has been an amazing coach. And as I've been asking like very specific questions about like filling in those knowledge gaps, I can see how much he benefits from coaching, and like, and because he believes in us. He believes, and I think his and my brain work the same. Like he shared a spreadsheet that he's used for 25 years for commercial development. And he's like, use this spreadsheet. It's never failed me.
And then the angels around your type A personality are just like,
yeah. And I'm like, thank goodness. Yes, you see me. But like, had I not like gone through this journey of asking questions, fill in the gaps that I don't know, and leaning on people who know more than I do on that particular topic, I would have never gotten to that, conversation. But being able to see the reward that it brings to him of like, I am like bringing out the next generation. I'm sharing this knowledge that I'm not keeping close to my chest. Like I want other people who have this ambition to be equipped with what I had, I think brings him as much fulfillment as it does for me, Right. We're each getting something out of it.
Yeah. And I think that's such an important reminder anytime that there's a moment where you're like, oh, I don't want to bother this person with this, or this might be like, maybe I'm not qualified to ask them, or you've got somebody on a pedestal.
Yeah.
I think that's advice that I have to give myself all the time, is like, how excited would I be if I was in their position and I got to help somebody that's in the shoes that I'm in?
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's the thing that like gets me over that hurdle to asking in the first place, is like, you're not entirely being selfish here. Like there is something on the other side of the coin where it's not just take. Like
yes,
there is an opportunity for a value exchange here. And one of the most, I think the way that I like really, that really sunk in for me was there was, I got checked one time by one of my friends who They invited
Love
me.
those friends.
Oh, it's the best. They invited me over to their house, and I think we were just like riding our bikes around during the day or something like that and hanging out. And his mom offered us lunch, and I was like, no, like I'm good, whatever. Like, and I actually was hungry that day, but I'm like, and I'm thank you so much, I'm good, but like, we're good. And when I left, he was like, hey man, in our culture, it's like actually very offensive if you come over and somebody offers you something and you deny that, because you're denying them that good feeling that comes from them like offering and giving you something.
Yes.
And it really just like it rewired my brain so much, because for whatever reason, I think that, I don't know if it's an American culture thing, but like we're taught that there's some version of politeness and like rejecting or like denying somebody doing something nice for you.
Or like not wanting to inconvenience somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even something is like, hey, can I get you a glass of water? There's something about that feels like it's a pleasantry where like I'm supposed to say no so they don't have to go do it.
Yes, totally.
But if somebody's at my house, I'm like, no, I want to get you like let me get you a glass of water. And so I think that thing like extrapolated all the way into the business world has been so helpful for me, is like you're denying somebody the opportunity to give you the gift of the lessons that they've learned by you saying no.
Totally.
Which also makes those lessons in some way less valuable, because it's like they don't want to keep it all for themselves.
Yeah.
Like ask the question.
Yes. And there is such fulfillment that they get. And like I said, I've gotten the opportunity to be on the other end of the table. And I love seeing like a highly ambitious person that's curious, that doesn't know everything, but like is just like a sponge, and being able to share that where they're asking for it. Of course you don't want to coach somebody that doesn't want to be coached, but for somebody that wants to be coached and wants to learn that information, like it is so rewarding, because then if you get the opportunity to see them put that advice that you gave them into action, that's like gold.
And then the thing starts working. You're like, we did it.
Yeah. And it's like, you did it, like just being able to see that person like took to heart what you said and like put their own spin on it and made it happen, I think is so fulfilling.
Oh, it's the coolest. It's the coolest. What are some of the things right now when you think about the journey that you have ahead of you with the Paddy Shack and being a mom and being a wife and like all the things that you're doing? What are some of the things right now that feel like some of those like open loops, or some of the things that are like kind of big and scary still as you're on that journey?
Gosh, I feel like we are finally coming out of the woods a little bit on all of that.
That's so awesome.
Like, I don't feel a huge amount of fear. Like, if you would have asked me that question last summer, I was like, what is going, like,
where do I start?
Yeah. And where are we going? And is this ever going to happen? And like we had some really dark times there, just because like we had the vision, we knew what we wanted to do, but it was very daunting to get there. And we hadn't built those connections of who could help with the means to the end. And we got there. And again, I think like credit to the people who have come in to the circle, who believe in the vision, who are making it just as much their thing as we are. Of course we're the face on it, but there's a lot of people behind the scenes helping to bring this thing to life. And every time we add someone to that bench, it just gives us more confidence, And so it's not big and scary at this point. I would say now it's just, okay, we know it needs to be done. Like it's not, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Beautiful.
We're not still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And now it's just like the dominoes falling as they're supposed to.
Yeah.
So we're working through the checklist of things that we know need to happen, but we don't have like an unfinished checklist,
Gotcha. So it's like, just like the execution phase right now. That's so cool. One of the things that I found, it was kind of an epiphany for me a couple of months ago, was actually related to the podcast. And I was finding myself getting really stressed about it, because I'm going to Austin and doing all these things where I'm like, I'm making the biggest bet on this thing that is like, has $0 of revenue ever so far.
It will get there. Don't worry. I can really save only money spent.
For sure. And that thing, I was like, checking myself on why I was feeling so like anxious, or so like it was such a daunting thing. And when I actually wrote it out, I was like, okay, it's because of not knowing how I'm going to get certain guests, not knowing how like remote podcasting works, how the sponsorship like ecosystem works, and all these different things. And when I really sat down and thought about it, I was like, the one thing that's a commonality between all these things that I'm stressed about is just knowledge.
Yeah.
It's not that I can't do any of these things, because like built a business, I've hired people, I've done sales before, like just like the core skill sets of all these things I know how to do. It's just a matter of, I don't know how it applies in this specific arena.
Yeah.
And knowledge is something that you can acquire. You know, it's
especially with ChatGPT.
Exactly.
It's like our first and only employee right now.
Yeah. Between ChatGPT and being able to just like hit up random people, you kind of get where you need to go.
Yeah.
And so, it's so like, it's very reassuring to me to hear that a year ago, it sounds like that's kind of where you guys were at. It was like, it
100%.
was a knowledge gap. It clearly wasn't a skill set gap. And so looking back on that, I kind of like asking you for advice, I suppose, like, what are the ways that you just like chip away at that knowledge gap once you realize like that is the thing?
So I think everybody learns differently. For me, like conversations, right? Like, and I would, you know, I've had so many instances where I've filled knowledge gaps by just talking to people, and that like, it's just this web, right? You go into it with a topic, you're going to talk about this one thing or set of things with a person. And then the conversation kind of takes a tangent and they're like, you should really talk to this person. And I remember like, we've probably talked to, I don't know, hundreds of people on various, elements of this project. Right. But each person connects us to another person or connects us to another thing, or check out that business. Have you seen the way that they did that one thing? And so like, yes, you can do all the research online, and those things are helpful and supplemental, right? Like if you want to go a layer deeper on that and the information that you got from the conversation. Yeah. But truly, like the best advice that I have is you can go into a conversation with like a loose agenda and come out of it with so many like actionable learnings that you got from that person. Right. That really like that. I would say that's the single most thing that's gotten us from like knowledge gap to having a clear action plan, is getting little bits of knowledge from various people and various topics along the way. Even if we didn't know that person, the person that I spoke to connected us with that person who then filled in that gap for us. Huh.
Do you think that loose agenda, as opposed to having a super specific, like here are hard items that we need to talk about, is having a looser agenda with maybe like a main topic or like one core question more helpful in your experience?
Yeah. Or like I would go into it with specific to the Paddy Shack. I'll go into one example, which is I talked to this guy who owns Urban Pickleball, and now he's on the board for the Paddy Shack. Okay. And he started the business and it's absolutely thriving. I went into it asking him, I really wanted him to like poke holes in our business plan. And, you know, looking at our projections for membership revenue versus, you know, court reservation revenue, and what is our lease, and is that going to be viable based on the expected occupancy? I'm going into all the details, you know, and he is helping me with those, but he's also building connections and talking about people. Oh, by the way, you should make sure that for the lighting you talk to, I know somebody who owns the Pickler. You should talk to them to figure out what lighting they went with. I didn't go in asking him about lighting, but it is an important element that I know nothing about relative. Right. And so it's like, okay, perfect. I'm adding that to, I'm going to have that conversation, you know? And so I think like, of course you want to go in with some level of structure, but just kind of, those people generally, everyone has something that they want to share that they didn't know they wanted to share until it came up naturally in conversation, you know, and just not being overly disciplined in what that conversation needs to look like.
Interesting. That's one of the biggest shifts that I made for the podcast, actually, is I think that we talked a little bit about it a couple of weeks ago, but like I used to go into them with a very structured, like very well-researched list of like, here's how I think this conversation should go and how it could be like the most beneficial. But what I started to find after quite a while was like, not only did most of those conversations never happen the way that I like outlined them, but also they ended up being more valuable the more that we got away from the structure that I like originally imposed. And so it kind of relates to this other idea that I found about podcasting specifically, is that the shorter of a question that you ask somebody, a lot of times the longer of an answer that they'll give you. Right? So like if you ask somebody like, how did that make you feel? You might be sitting there for the next 2.5 minutes. Which is amazing. Like, and I think that it's honestly been very helpful in my personal life too. Cause I used to ask a question to somebody and then I'd start being like, how did that make you feel? Cause I'd imagine it was like, blah, 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 blah.
And then you're kind of
and then
like,
I'll answer it for him. I'll be like, yep, pretty much. That's how it went.
Yeah.
Well, that was a boring conversation.
No, you're a natural at like having conversations that flow easily and that lead to really fruitful, you know, outcomes versus, nobody likes a overly regimented, like
Right.
question, answer, hit a wall, go to the next question. And so,
For sure.
you'll be great at it.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm curious. It seems like that same concept kind of applies to the meetings like you're talking about, where like if you ask a certain like small number of pointed questions that are like really like the core things, that it gives somebody the space maybe to be like, and you should be thinking about this and this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, like being somebody who's been a mentor, a mentee, and like asked your way through a million different like hurdles, I'm sure. Um, what is a good way to be like approaching those conversations, asking questions, and like being a good sponge for people who are willing to help you?
Mm-hmm. I think naturally humans don't want to offend or like overstep or say something that might, make you feel a certain way. But if you go into the conversation, like saying like, I want critical feedback. Like I actually thank you for all the nice things that you said about me. That's great. I don't want to spend any time on that. I would rather you point out the flaws, like, and opening that door to have that, really honest conversation where, because people, especially if you like have not met them or you've met them one time, they may kind of tiptoe, depending on the personality. Some people may not. But I think going into it with this very transparent, kind of agenda that's like, I actually want you to help me understand where I'm missing the mark. What am I not understanding about this particular thing? Giving them the permission. Yeah.
Right. I feel like that's such a good insight. Do you set that early in a meeting, or like, do you set that before you might sit down with somebody saying like, hey, the purpose behind this thing is like, I value your input enough to say like, please shoot holes in this.
I would say it's more natural. Like I reflect on that same coffee conversation that I had with the urban pickleball owner, where it's like, I'm not coming here with a perfect plan. I actually want you to help me find my gaps. I think it came naturally to him. So it was a really easy conversation, but, I would say just as like, whenever you go into a meeting, like setting the table, okay, what are we here for? We're going to talk about these things. Like, I feel like I'm a little bit more structured in my job versus these Paddy Shack meetings where I always go into it. You do need to make sure that people are clear on the agenda. Otherwise they're like, what exactly is the intention of that meeting? So I try to take that same approach, maybe at a little bit like, softer way and building relationships. Just people need to know why you're here and what you're asking for. And like, give them the permission to speak up and get their perspective.
For sure. That's, anybody who's a regular listener of the show is probably tired of hearing me talk about it, but it was such an impactful moment for me. Before we had a name for this podcast or any episodes released or something like that, we went and recorded with who's now one of my great friends, but was at the time like a dream guest for me. And we get all the light. It was the first time we did professional lighting. We traveled to Wyoming to go get this thing done. And I was like, kind of like butterflies. This felt like a big moment.
A
little nervy at the time. And we're like 2 minutes from recording. We're like grabbing water. We're about to sit down. And he like looks at me and he like kind of like raises an eyebrow. He goes, what are we doing this for? I was like all of my insecurities are just like, there's like huge rocket right away. And, I kind of like, at first I kind of took offense to it. I was like, oh no, like he doesn't think this good use of time, blah, blah, blah. But what he was actually asking was like, he goes, no, we're going to spend like, 2+ hours probably sitting here talking about stuff. Like, what are we trying to contribute to the world with this thing? And it was such an impactful thing to me because I've always been a agenda person. And like, I spent way too many hours, like, especially in school where it was like, I was going to get a 95 on this presentation, but I was like, but it's not done yet. Like we have to lay everything out. And so
see it through to completion.
For sure. Yeah. So I've always been that person where like tight agendas, tight all those things, but I wasn't applying it to the podcasting for some reason. And I think that that's such a cool thing to hear you say that is important is like each time that you sit down with somebody is like, the most valuable resource that we have is our time and attention. Why are we spending it on this thing today? And like, what are we actually getting out of it? And that seems like, it seems like a very helpful insight for people who are asking questions for maybe the first time.
Well, and I think like you do have a finite amount of time, right? And so you only learn this by many conversations, but the ones that don't feel like they really could have been what they should have been.
Could have been an email.
A lot of times it's just because like there were misaligned expectations on the people around the table. So like I have really found just a quick set the table. What are we doing here? These are the main things that we're trying to get across, but like, please bring in your perspective and like, make sure people know that it's a safe space to chime in and share their feedback.
Do you have like a structure for it or anything tangible for somebody who might not naturally do that already? Or like, what are the key elements of it maybe?
Well, I'm going to maybe lean more on like my corporate experience of managing people. A lot of it is through one-on-one conversations before we have a group conversation, right? So like, I'm not going to go in and because everybody is different, right? And a lot of times the way that I manage people, I have to lean into their style. Yeah. I don't expect people to conform to my style. Like I have to conform to theirs. And so they're all going to be different in terms of how they contribute to a conversation, right? Some people may need to be time boxed and you're, okay, let's wrap that up. Try to be more concise. Or some people may never speak up unless they're called on. And so when we have a group, and a lot of times when you're coming up with great ideas, there's a lot of people around the table. There are louder and quieter voices. And so the way to make sure that that goes really well is setting expectations one-on-one with each person that's contributing to the conversation.
Before the meeting.
Yeah, before the meeting. Or just through dialogue with that person, like continuing to encourage that person to lean into some of the areas that are uncomfortable for them. Or to give them confidence in an area where they may not feel confidence. Like a lot of that comes from, again, me being on the other end of the table early in my career where I was a perfectionist and I knew that I had gaps. I always reference this in interviews like this where I had a manager who I had a lot of self-doubt on like, I thought I had great ideas, but I had doubt in executing them by the way that I had been conditioned prior in my career, where it was like second guessed or you have to ask for permission for everything. And I'll never forget when I came into him, and it was probably like a few months into my career at the Zebra, and his name is Josh. He's the co-founder there. And I would come to him with these ideas and he finally would be like, can you please stop asking me for permission to do these things? You have great ideas. And he called it JSAL. Like, what would Jessie do? Yeah. Or not. Yeah. No, WWJD is literally what he said. Jessie's School of Wisdom was another thing that he created, but he basically was like, you already know it. Like, just go do it. And so I think like, this doesn't necessarily apply to like everybody, but especially people who are earlier in their career, building their thing, having somebody who's a little bit older to like validate them and be like, no, you do know what you're talking about. Even if you feel that self-doubt, just that encouragement, just say it because you have something that's really valuable to add to the conversation.
Right. Yeah. I think that's been an interesting one for me, especially being like early in a career and like being a lot of times being the youngest at a table. Me and my buddy talked about this, who was in a similar situation. And he said that he used to feel sitting at tables like he had to say something to prove his value, that he like earned his seat at the table. Right. So over the course of an hour-long meeting, he's like, well, I need to get 2 minutes in where I say something that's impressive enough to prove to everybody that I like deserve to be here. Yeah. What we reflected on though, is typically when you're in that mode, the 2 minutes that you spend talking is like, you probably put your foot in your mouth and
it was the wrong time.
Probably sounded a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so I think that there is also a lot of power in like, kind of like the same like essence of asking questions is like being willing to be the most uneducated in a room and be comfortable in that. Be like, I am not going to speak in this conversation because my role here is to learn, is to take notes, and is to like be a sponge. Totally. As opposed to like, it would actually be whole lot better if I don't say anything here. Like there is a time where 100%. The most valuable thing that you can say is nothing.
Yeah. And like just 100%, like being strategic with when it makes sense to say something versus not. And again, just career like experience, seeing like a lot of people feeling like, mistaking activity for output. Like just, I got to do this thing because I said that I did this thing and it didn't actually drive the outcome that we all wanted versus, taking a more strategic approach to the work that needs to be done. A lot of times it can be done with a lot less activity, just more strategic, thoughtful activity. And you can apply the same to conversations, right? Like chime in when it makes sense. Or if you're here to learn, it's okay to just have that be how you participate in the conversation.
100%. Yeah, it's really cool. I think that you've got like the really like the most awesome combination of like years of experience in the early stage world and then like applying it to all of your new stuff right now because I think that there's obviously a difference that comes with like having your own investors at the table, having your own like staring at the ceiling moments versus coaching other
Yes.
people through
Very
them.
different. There's more, the stakes are higher.
Yeah, for sure. So what has been like, you know, like as we talked about in the beginning, I'm so excited for the people who might be in those early stages as well right now to like be able to hear your insights and your story because not only do you have like the deep experience that comes with being in this world for so long, but you're also like personally in it doing your thing. What have been the things that you've noticed or like the changes that you felt going from having all of this experience being involved in other people's projects to like doing your own and feeling that stuff yourself?
Yeah. Um, I do think it's easier to turn off when you're building someone else's dream. Like the work-life balance, if you will, is easier to make happen because if you come in, you do your work, you do it well, and then you go and focus on this other area of your business or of your life, which is pretty like there's a wall between those things. Right. And I think building your own business, your own dream, it gets fuzzy, right? Like there's not like a start and stop. It bleeds into things or wakes you up at night. I'd say that's the biggest thing. Like sometimes I hate how my brain just wakes me up and I'm like, can I please get some sleep? I have a big day tomorrow. But, so I think like that's been a big thing that I've had to learn how to be better at is, how can I turn that off sometimes so that I can be present because it's so easy to just let every element of your big dream kind of like creep into other parts of your life that deserve that attention, like that deserve you to not be thinking about that right at that moment. So like I'd say the biggest thing that I've learned is just like time management and discipline. And like, it doesn't mean that, I mean, there's plenty of times where we get the girls to bed, we're open up our computers and we're working for a few hours, or wake up in the morning, get it done. Cause that's when we're freshest, but I didn't do those things when I was building someone else's dream. When it came to like, okay, this is taking up my mental capacity at all hours of every day. How do I be a little bit more strategic with my time so that I can be 100% in and not just be kind of just like a squirrel, okay, that thing supports my idea here. I'm going to run over there. Like just try to be a little bit more structured with my days.
Got it. Is that something that, you knew going in would be a shift that happens? Or is that something that you like only experience by like touching the stove a little bit?
100%. Yeah. I think just like, people always say like, when you're uncomfortable, that's when the biggest growth happens. Like, it's so true because when things are going well, you're not thinking about, all the things, you just don't think about the things that would go sideways. Like by human nature, you don't want to go there when things are going well. When things are bad, that's usually what forces you to be like, okay, zoom out for a second. What do I need to change in this situation to make it better? And to optimize your life. You can't optimize without those inputs, right? That like, okay, these things went sideways here. Here's how I'm going to change things to make it better. You just can't possibly have the foresight. Like it really is hindsight 2020. And then just trying to be as like, as effective as you can to make those changes that are required, but no one can anticipate those things. And I think one of the things I constantly, like Grant and I are reminding ourselves of is anybody who starts a big thing, they didn't have like a playbook. They didn't like, this is how I'm going to do it. And when days get hard, here's how I'm going to manage these things. They went into it with a big idea. They believed in themselves and then they figured it out along the way. And so I think like that is probably the best advice I would have given to myself a few years ago is like, you are going to have hard days and there's going to be moments where you don't know what you're doing, or you may not want to go further, because of the level of overwhelm and stress that you're feeling. But then you have those moments where, okay, you had a breakthrough on that thing, or you learned how to do this thing that you didn't know how to do before. And it like propels you forward to the next step. And you will get to the other end. You will finish eating the elephant, like it will get there. And just I'm still in that like messy middle, you know, where we are telling ourselves that we know that it's going to happen. But not losing sight that it will, and it's okay to not have it all figured
100%.
out.
So being in the spot now where you've gone through so much of that messy middle and like all of the unexpected stuff, it's so cool to hear that you're in what sounds like a somewhat more relaxed space where you can be like, okay, now we at least know, like we can see the path now.
Yes.
So which makes it a lot easier to dodge the obstacles when you can see them coming. What are you the most excited about, or what are some of the things that you're excited about looking forward to the rest of the dominoes falling, getting the Paddy Shack open, and being able to like have that people thing that you talked about and like actually be able to see it in real life?
Yeah. Well, now that we've told the community about it, I think the next big thing is obviously getting a shovel in the ground, like physically seeing the thing coming to life, I think is the next big milestone that we're super excited about. So if all goes to plan, that'll be this summer. And then I think that's where we can start to shift our mindset to, okay, we've got our big building plans. We've got the timeline, the building's going up. What's the programming? Like, what are we going to do for this space? What are we going to do for our community? We've talked about like, singles league nights or like couples nights or like, we've talked about like summer concert series. Like those are all things that we're really excited to finally get to like build the plan around. Historically, it's been like, okay, what's our investor ROI? What's our, 3-year financial projections? Like it's been all the planning thing.
A lot less creative and fun and warm fuzzy feelings there. Yeah.
And more like the necessary things, like it has to pencil. But okay, now we've overcome the penciling part and now we're at like, okay, now we're doing the thing that we set out to do. We actually get to work on the thing that we've been working so hard towards.
That's got to feel like such a reward after being in like the weeds of the rest of it.
Yeah, it feels so good. And even just like having people in our family and friend network that are like, you guys are going to figure it out. Like you guys got it. It's happening. Like there's just absolutely zero doubt in their minds. And by the way, some of those people did have some doubts in the beginning, especially like my dad. Like I remember him being kind of like, ooh, this is scary. This is kind of big. Do you like not sure how it's going to go for you? And I think once he got to see like the lens of the level of work that we've done to get to here, it just really gave him such conviction in us and the idea that now we're there. And even in moments where we're like, ooh, this is scary, they're like, but you're going to figure it out. You're fine.
That's so cool.
Like hearing those people come full circle to, you guys got this.
Yeah. It's so funny too, because a lot of the times, especially when it's people in that first like core part of the web that you're talking about earlier, a lot of times I think that people kind of mistake what feels like unsupportiveness maybe as like malicious intent, but really it's like they just care so much about you being like safe, being cared for, being all of those things that
they don't want the big scary thing for you.
Yeah, like naturally so many of those people just care so much about you that they're like, I want you to be okay.
Yes.
And that's where the doubt comes from. It's not like, I don't think you can accomplish this thing. Yeah, it's just like they want so bad for you to be okay that if they could see the end picture 5 years from when you're telling them about it and it works out, they'd be your biggest fan off rip.
Yeah.
But that's, I think that that's a hard thing to remember sometimes when your mom's sitting there going like, my mom on the podcast, she's like, so how does this actually make money? And I'm like, well, there's merch, there's sponsorships, there's this and that. But yeah, it's like, I think that's where your advice of start with something that you're so passionate about and like you can see the grand vision and then work backwards. I think that makes those conversations a lot easier where it's like, just trust me.
Yes.
It's going to work.
And like, and believing in yourself, like nobody knows it as well as you do. So they might have their preconceived notions about why it's not going to work. And we've had plenty of conversations. Like, yes, we've had a lot, I'd say, 85% of it is belief and excitement and wow, you guys are building something really cool. How do I be a part of it? That's not everybody. We've definitely had conversations where they're like, I can't figure out how that's going to work. Like, how are you going to make this thing happen? Or have you thought about this? Or like, those numbers don't, that particular number doesn't, how do you make that work? They don't know the detail. Like they don't know all the things that are in our brains that aren't necessarily on a spreadsheet that are going to make this thing happen. For us, a lot of it's programming. Like we're not just going to build this business and expect people to show up. Like we're going to continue to show up ourselves and how we create like a dynamic and unique and vibrant space for this community forever, right? Like we want it to be an anchor. It's not just a physical structure, but you can't put that passion and those ideas on paper, but we know it, right? And so like anytime we have had a naysayer, yes, in the moment it sucks to have somebody that's like, I just can't make that make sense for me.
Right.
And then it's like, but they're looking at it in like a myopic lens.
Yep.
And I have a broader vision and I believe in myself. Like, and I'm saying this as I've had plenty of moments where I'm like, oh gosh, I really respect that person's opinion.
For sure.
And they said something that I didn't want to hear. But it's okay. Like, it's okay for people to doubt you.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's not going to work.
True. And I think that is advice that's so easy to take when it's somebody whose opinion you're like, yeah, well, what have you done? You know, like not to be rude or anything, but there's some people that have opinions on things where it's like, I'm going to take that with a grain of salt because you haven't built something like I'm trying to build. However, when you get that feedback from somebody who you do respect a ton and is like, has done and accomplished things that you look up to, that's where it's like, it tests that belief a little bit. And it's like, are you sure? Which I don't know, maybe goes back to business being a very good self-development tool.
Well, they're just never going to have the full picture that you do, you know? And so I think like, if you just look at it through that one single lens, it can be easy to shut down.
Right.
Right. But it, like, I've always talked about how the Paddy Shack is going to be this ecosystem, right? Like you can't really have one without the other. We're not building a warehouse full of pickleball courts.
Right.
If we did, then the financial model, like it would just look very different. We're building pickleball, beer and wine, food trucks, live music. Like we're building an experience for people. And that models out in a way that like, has been validated by these existing business models in other communities. We just don't have it here yet. That right there, like that's all the validation that I need to continue to tell myself, which is like, this works in many other cities and we just deserve to have an ecosystem like this. We don't have it yet. And so people can't, especially those who live here or haven't left or haven't lived in different places. It's hard for them because they've never lived it. But
might not have ever heard of a third space before either.
Very
unfamiliar here.
Or just like this complementary ecosystem. Like you can't, if it doesn't fit in their singular box, they can shut it down. It's like, well, I appreciate your perspective on this one thing, but you're not going to be the person that I seek for advice on this other thing because, you know, you don't have that broader lens that we've gotten from other people. Which
is why I'm very glad that there are people like you in the world to bring very cool stuff to,
or just like same for your podcast. Like people build their livelihoods off of podcasts. You can do it too. What makes you not qualified to do that? You just have to build the path to get there. Right. And you might not have all the answers right now, but you've seen it. It like exists. It just doesn't, there's not a lot of people doing podcasts in Billings.
Very true.
Right. So people often want to see more of themselves to feel confident in doing the thing. And so, you creating this space where people can see themselves, I think just helps with confidence when we have those days where it's like, what am I doing?
One of the unintended benefits of this thing is I also get a library of examples to be like, see, dude, it is possible to build cool things.
Yes. Yeah.
And I can't say that it's not true because I like sit in this chair and get to talk to all of them. So it's just like,
100%.
It's awesome. Well, I'm super grateful that being in Billings that you guys are choosing to be like, it seems like you guys are almost like playing host for all of Billings by doing this thing, right? Like you guys
the
are
dream.
like, you guys are like turning your superpower into something that like this entire community gets to benefit from and not just like the barbecue with like family and friends kind of thing. So, I think just like with anybody starting something, it is very admirable what you guys are doing, but selfishly, I'm also very excited to be able to benefit from your guys' hosting skills and, just this community very much needs something like that. And it takes a lot to come into a community that doesn't have it and be like, that's all right. We're going to be the ones to do it. Like we're going to change the narrative on this thing. And I'm sure it's something that people will follow suit with afterwards too. So
that's what we hope. I hope that it's like a snowball, right? Where we can create this space that exists in other cities that enriches the community. And then somebody else wants to come and build something else that enriches the community. And just showing those people that you can come into a community that doesn't have it and build something very successful. Just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean that it won't be successful, you know?
100%. Awesome. Well, anything to add before we get out of here?
Oh, I'm so grateful that we got to sit down and chat. I feel like I've learned a lot from you in these conversations, which just equally selfishly grateful to get to have conversations like this and also tell the world about the Paddy Shack. And thanks for being a believer.
Absolutely. Yeah. Put me on that list for sure. I can't wait for the grand opening.
Yes.
And I will be showing off my very mediocre at best pickleball skills.
Oh my gosh.
I'm very excited.
Again, if we can say one thing to close, this is like this place is meant for the social players.
Heck yeah.
Right? Like if you've never played, it's fine. It's great. Like go have a glass of wine with your friends and then play around in pickleball, learn how to play. We'll teach you how to play.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, thank you for doing everything you're doing. Where can people find you, the Paddy Shack, if they go looking? You
can find us on our website at www.thepaddyshack.com.
Heck yeah. I love it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for listening, everybody, and be where your feet are. We love you.
Thank you.
Bye.